And in the Middle East, calls to free hostages held by Hamas are intensifying. Latest reports say Israel is willing to come down on its original demand for Hamas to release 40 living hostages in exchange for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza. Now, according to Israeli media reports, Israel could now be willing to accept the release of just 20 hostages in the first phase of a truce deal, so long as those released are women, men over the age of 50, and those who are seriously ill. The last proposal, drafted by negotiators from Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, that called for the release of 40 hostages was in fact rejected by Hamas. Now Hamas claims that it does not in fact hold that many hostages in those categories that are still alive. However, it was still not specified how long the truce would actually last in the exchange for the release of 20 hostages. As the deadlock continues, Israel's war cabinet has reportedly authorized its negotiating team to discuss this more flexible approach with an Egyptian delegation. The delegation is in Tel Aviv today to continue talks on a ceasefire and hostage deal. In fact, earlier this week, Hamas released a video of one of the hostages it is still holding. This was seen as a potential sign that it is too looking to strike a deal, and soon. The video was that of an Israeli-American hostage named Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who accused the Israeli government of abandoning the people being held hostage by Hamas. After the release of the video by Hamas, there were clashes outside Netanyahu's Jerusalem home, and protesters lit bonfires and raised their hands painted red while chanting, "Bring them all back home." Angry demonstrators also swarmed the car of Israel's far-right security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir.
We came out today to call for the immediate release of all hostages, even in the name of not continuing this awful, horrible war that has killed the hostages up till now. And we hope that our message will be heard by the people who are responsible, and that they will come back now.
Meanwhile, leaders of 18 countries, including the United States and the UK, have called on Hamas to free the hostages. The families of Israeli hostages held in Gaza have put renewed pressure on the Netanyahu government to restart negotiations for a temporary ceasefire in exchange for those still being held captive by Hamas.
The Families Forum welcomed the statement from the world leaders calling for the immediate release of all hostages and putting the issue of the hostages as a top international priority. We are grateful to all the countries that participated in this joint call, and we urge other world leaders to unite in this demand.
It's the time not just to make statements, it's time not just to say words, it's time to make actions and to understand that we are dealing with a radical terror organization that only wants to destroy us. And it's time for the world to wake up and do everything that in its power to bring those people back.
As the conflict passes the 200-day mark and families of the hostages await the return of their loved ones, negotiations have made almost no headway, with Hamas and Israel blaming each other for lack of flexibility. Meanwhile, Israel has vowed to dismantle the remaining Hamas stronghold in Rafah. It also says that it will, in fact, evacuate the over 1 million Palestinians sheltering there before an offensive is launched. Now it remains unclear how Israel's military offensive in Rafah will impact ongoing negotiations for hostages and a ceasefire. But what is clear, pressure is growing on all sides to find a solution to this rapidly intensifying situation. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.